Netflix has revolutionized the way we create and experience storytelling. Indian shows and films have reached millions of viewers from across 190 countries, bringing our culture and creativity into living rooms all around the world. This is a very exciting time for the Indian entertainment industry, and Netflix plays a vital role in elevating our voices on both the local and the global stage. Today, it is my pleasure to share the stage with the visionary who has been at the forefront of this very revolution. His leadership has taken Netflix to newer heights, and it is an honor to have him with us here today. So without a further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage the Netflix co-CEO, Mr. Ted Sarandos. Welcome, sir.
It's a real amazing pleasure to be here. Always to be in India, but to be here for Waves. This is such an incredible undertaking. So grateful to the government for putting this together and bringing it to life, and for inviting Netflix to be part of it. We've been operating in India now for 9 years, but you know we took our big swing 7 years ago with Sacred Games.
Yes.
And you took that swing with us, which we'll be forever grateful for. And it's always been, and I knew that when we came to India, it would be a very important part of our journey. Because what we found with Sacred Games is that great stories could transcend borders and language and culture and really talk to the world. And Sacred Games proved that. And I'm just so endlessly thrilled to work with you and work with the creative community in India all the time. So.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you. The Sacred Games is one of the most special things I've ever done on film, and will always be very, very close to my heart. Netflix has completely transformed the way we experience stories. I mean, I still remember when watching a film, and might be giving away my age here, was kind of fighting for a cinema ticket, managing to get it somehow, standing in queues, and there were single screen theaters. That was kind of the only outlet at the time. And today, with just a tap, people have unlimited choices, you know, at home on tablets, phones, massive screens, and a multiplex right around the corner. Now, you've been right at the heart of this revolution. So please, could you tell me two things? Number one, what is the world watching right now? And even more importantly, where do you see storytelling headed over the next 20 years?
Well, what's great is the world is watching their favorite show and film on Netflix all over the world. And it's very rarely the same thing. Every once in a while, something will really catch fire where people not only want to watch it everywhere in the world, but they want to talk about it. Something like Adolescence right now from the UK is an example of that, where you can tap into a story that feels very, very local and very, very relevant almost anywhere you are in the world. And we get the pleasure of doing that with stories that could be either very British, like Adolescence, or Haramande, which would be obviously quite Indian, and still travel the entire world. And I think that has been kind of the new dynamic. 20 years is a long time to predict for. I wouldn't have been able to predict, I think, even where we sit today, just 7 years, from 7 years ago when we first started here. In many ways, bigger, different for sure than I would have ever expected. But I think the impact of streaming is really about meeting the audience where they are. And if you are in the business of bringing entertainment to people, film or television, or if you are in the business of creating that, I think your first thought should be, how do I please this audience? How do I get them to where they are? And not spend too much time debating about business models and distribution systems and all these things, because I promise you the audience isn't talking about that at all.
Right.
So, and I think the other thing that's been really hard to predict, but incredibly impactful, is our production in local storytelling. That's, like, again, started with Sacred Games 7 years ago, but since 2021 through 2024, so after COVID, when things got back to normal, we've invested in India in a way that has created $2 billion of economic impact from our productions. So 20,000 cast and crew jobs from our productions in India. And we think what people are watching around the world, last year, about 3 billion hours of Indian content on Netflix around the world. So about 60 million hours a week. So, and loving it. So, last year, every week of last year, there was a title from India in the global top 10. That's pretty great, huh?
Amazing.
Yeah. And again, I see when I say these things, I always remind myself what a big, broad, diverse place we are in India. Yes. So in those productions, we've done 150 original films and series. I've filmed in 90 different cities around India.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I want to ask you, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Of course.
So when you took a very big swing with us, where we had not proved ourselves at all in India. We were very exotic, I think, when we got here first. And how do you find as an actor, how has your world changed with streaming and cinematic television since in Sacred Games?
Oh my God! I mean, it's been the most liberating thing and the most amazing thing for all actors all over the world. Earlier, we had to kind of fit into specific boxes, and there was a formula, a look, a style for the kind of thing you had to do. And today, thanks to streaming, we can explore characters in a very different way and go into much more depth. And it is a fantastic platform to showcase all kinds of things, long-form storytelling, and to get into. There's a kind of intimacy on the platform. I mean, I consume a lot of it myself, and when you're watching. You can spend more time, and there is a great amount of detail that you can go into as an actor and as a storyteller. And it's the reach as well. It's not just the layered storytelling, but I mean, the fact that it goes out around the world, and so many people, I mean, I get phone calls from people who wouldn't normally call me for a cinematic release. But on Netflix, everybody rings up, people ring up from Europe and America and say, oh, we watched this and we watched this, and we're compared to the rest of the world, and it's a very, very exciting space. And, you know, it's got a longer shelf life. People are discovering old shows and films years later. And that kind of longevity is a real gift.
I think it's funny, as a culture, it's much better to talk about films that we've all seen than it is to talk about memes that we're going to forget tomorrow.
Yes.
Can I ask the audience a question?
Please.
Just show of hands. How many people are using Netflix that are here? Oh, okay. All right. This audience has good taste. I like this.
I mean, for artists, streaming is like this massive creative playground, you know, with no school bell. I mean, it is a creative revolution. And speaking of revolutions, Ted, streaming has been a true disruptor. The pace, the access, the reach, I mean, it's mind-blowing. Please tell me, is there any way to really measure how big this impact has been globally and especially in India?
Well, it's interesting. Some of my reference points, if you don't mind, I'll use it from the U.S., and I see that they're consistent around the world. India is a great cinema culture. People love to go to films, they like to watch movies on TV, they like to talk about cinema. That's been true for many, many decades. So what makes India so exciting for me, too. What streaming has done is kind of got to the audience where they were, what I was saying earlier. Well, if you want to watch a movie, well, I want to be able to deliver it to you. And sometimes it's not convenient, sometimes it's not affordable, sometimes it's not able to see it. So what's been great about India is they've been very fan-centric, getting the movies very quickly from the cinema to streaming so that people can get to them and see them, which has been fantastic. But I also think that this idea of democratizing film and being able to get to film, again, India was way ahead of the curve on this. Traveling films, canisters on bikes to sit at small towns and all this. This was happening forever in India. So, but what streaming has done, I think, is met the audience where they were, focused on entertaining. I'm more concerned that people keep watching movies and that this is a business model that people can keep making movies. So in the U.S., average person sees 2 movies a year in the cinema, 2 movies all year. They watch 7 movies a month on Netflix. So this is a business model and a distribution system that will enable filmmaking forever. This is what excites me.
Absolutely, that is incredible. But can you tell me, where does cinema, like as in films releasing in theaters, fit into this scenario? I mean, can streaming and theaters share the stage?
Absolutely, and I think they do here. I mean, I think in India it's probably one of the more fan-centric places that enables this to happen because they don't get into these debates necessarily about how long the windows need to be. I think that's a very big debate in a few countries around the world. But again, I assure you that nobody except for distributors are talking about windows. And people, if you go to the dinner after a movie and talk about the window, you've missed the mark with that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So mostly people just want to see movies and how do we get to them. And I do think they can coexist in the same way. I was asked recently in New York if I thought cinemas were outdated, and I said no. For some people, for sure. It's not. If I was being interviewed in Manhattan, there's a movie theater on every corner. You could just walk and go see a movie. I grew up in a small town in Phoenix, Arizona. When I grew up there, it was much smaller than it is today. I had to drive 45 minutes to go see a movie outside of the norm. If you wanted to see a foreign language movie or a documentary or any of those things. And now, because of streaming, you can deliver movies that are very obscure. It isn't all one kind of big movie for the world. It's what kind of movies do you like, and you can pick that night. So that's the opportunity. And I'm sure, I hope cinema continues to exist because I love going to the movies too. So I wanted to ask you, sir, about the different various streaming platforms. And it's caused, obviously, a shift in consumer behavior. Has it changed? How has it changed in your professional life?
Well, honestly, it's the writing. I think the writing has generally become sharper, a little more complex, and streaming allows for, like I was saying earlier, real character development. And we can go into depth and get into all sorts of angles that perhaps you don't have the time to do in a movie, and that's exciting. And there's no rush to wrap things up in 2 hours. We can let the story unfold at its own pace. And for someone like me who enjoys exploring characters in depth, I mean, it's a great time to be an actor. Also, it gives the opportunity to bring longer stories to light. Like there's certain books that we've read that, you couldn't maybe see the movie of. And in our culture, there's so many stories that kind of haven't been told, whether amazing epics, of course, like the Mahabharata and Ramayana, and how to make that into a movie. It would be a very long kind of movie to select which parts to do, and you can really flesh those things out. Even the Panchatantra, our folk stories in India, there's so many that I don't know, there's so many that I've discovered, and there's so many I do know that I didn't know earlier that I think the world would benefit from if we could tell them, and this is like such a great platform to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can see that, except for sure.
Ted, I actually believe that, for an Indian story to be told and loved across the world, like if a friend of mine in Europe or America said, show me some film that you've done, even though I've done a lot of films that have been kind of shot in New York and London, the film I would show them would be the one most rooted in our culture, whether it's probably Omkara or a film like that, Parinita maybe. Something rooted in our culture. And to be loved, it has to be authentic. So may I please ask you what your message is for Indian creators who aim for their content to be taken, globally?
Yeah, we were talking about this just backstage. I think the most interesting thing is if you try to engineer something to be global, you are making it for nobody. The things that have proven to be the most global, the things that have traveled, that have been watched the most outside of its country of origin, have been the things that have been the most locally authentic. So nothing will work outside of India if it isn't loved in India. I promise you. So don't try to water it down. Don't try to amalgamate this, reverse engineer into what a movie is supposed to look like for the world. Because I don't think people even think that. People just won't recognize that world you've created. But they will recognize that thing that was quite local to them. A few years ago, the movie Roma, with Alfonso Cuarón directed, won 3 Oscars, a very Mexican film. We were traveling around presenting the movie, and he couldn't come to India for the film festival, and he asked if I would come and present the film, which I did. And I was thinking to myself all the way here, I don't know that Indian audiences are going to like this movie. It's a very Mexican film. And then when I got here, 5 sold-out shows, lines, out the door waiting for sold out for overflow tickets. People loved the movie, standing ovation, and because it spoke to they saw themselves in these characters. Now, not because there was any an Indian person in the cast, but it was a story about fairness. It was a story about class. It was a story about it was quite recognizable to Indian people. So, but it didn't have to be reverse engineered into something to make other than what it was. Squid Game. So this is what's very exciting about India. I think India is on the cusp of a very big inflection point for movies, for its storytelling. The way that Squid Game was that kind of moment for Korea. K-dramas and K-content have always had an audience, mostly for the diaspora, the Korean around the world. And then some people were just hardcore Korean drama and romance fans, but a pretty small audience for a while. All of a sudden, something comes along to open your eyes, and you see a story you haven't seen before, in a world you haven't seen before, and if you're very satisfied, you want more. And that's what we saw with Squid Game, then Parasite came, right? That happened over and over again, to a point now where Korean cinema is now widely understood around the world. Korean dramas are being watched in every country around the world now, and I think India is about to have that. That's about to happen. You're seeing these building blocks being laid today, and now you have, through streaming, through Netflix and others, you have a distribution platform to make that possible. Yeah.
No, I'm also very excited for this time because there's this feeling in the air of needing to tell our stories in an international way, and it's a very exciting because there's so many stories. And there's so much to do.
So in this world of stories, what draws you in? What hooks you?
It could be. I mean, I like history, and I like historical kind of sweeping films about maybe some other culture, maybe Japanese samurai. But I'm also very excited, like I've been saying, to see our culture also be brought to the big screen in terms of, we were talking about stories from the Mahabharata, which is the greatest story ever told. It's one of our great epics. And stories like this, that kind of, like I say, history, massive war scenes, and kind of bringing alive a history and a past that is kind of relegated to books. I would like to see that kind of atmosphere come alive in movies, and I think the long-form streaming kind of format is just perfect for that. You really do get a look at cultures from all over the world and feel you kind of understand more about the world.
I do like when people think that attention spans are getting shorter because of phones, and then they find something they love, and you watch 8 hours of it in 2 days.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And they, what kind of stories draw you in?
For me, I have the job of a lifetime because I get access to all of these stories, and I watch them as they're being made. So I'm usually watching things that are 6 months to a year ahead of everybody else. So people go, did you see this? Yeah, I saw it a year ago, so I forgot it. But so for me, like I'm going to go back to adolescence for a minute, just because I remember watching that first episode at the time, and I even remember them telling me from the UK about the pitch for that show, sounded like a very bleak story, and it is, but it's so beautifully told and acted and written, and then every episode is shot in one take, and it's so technically difficult what they did that I watched it the first time and I said, this is, and what I loved about it wasn't that they did something that was just hard to show off and it was a gimmick. You didn't even realize when you were watching it that it was one take, but you felt different when you watched it. And I remember that the pitch was that we're going to do it this way because the audience will have nowhere to go. And you will be in the story with it, Yes, so
wow.
Incredible. Wow.
I mean, there's some very clever people out there, and this kind of platform and this field is going to see some very exciting things.
And the gratifying thing is you get to take a chance on people, and you get to take a chance on new stories and new storytellers.
I can imagine that's very exciting. Yeah. I mean, I like stories that surprise me and anything that feels honest and unexpected. I enjoy things with strong characters, emotion, complexity, of course. But like I say, for me, history and kind of these kind of dramas. I did a piece of work. We had gone to some of the old forts in Rajasthan and in India and dressed them up again. and there were flags and people and horses, and it was just a great feeling to try and sort of bring the past alive.
I get to watch it, you get to do it. That's exciting.
I mean, it's great. Best job in the world, you know.
Yeah.
And also, what I find fascinating is the kind of, you know, like the show Cobra Kai. My son is watching that at the moment.
Ralph Macchio will be very happy.
Yeah, well, you had technically a kind of bad guy, and who was in the movie, in the Karate Kid. And then you made a whole show which is an offshoot on one of the characters, and perhaps a slightly negative character became the lead. So that kind of development, where you take a minor character from a major movie and make a show about him, is that kind of thing also very much excites me. Developing the mythology of any kind of idea.
Yeah. It's an exciting part
Delhi
of it.
Crime being possibly my favorite show coming out. I think that was.
But I do think the affordability of time, the time that the television allows you to dig into smaller parts of the story and find real gems there that feed into the bigger part of the story. That's exciting.
That is the absolutely thing.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you, is there something you're looking forward to in this field? A title or something coming up?
Well, I mean, I've been watching a lot of these things coming up. We have a show called The Bads of Bollywood coming up that is really fun. And I'm going to leave the audience to try to figure out the title all completely, but it is so fun. I have 4 episodes in. You haven't got it yet. You're going too soon. And we have a really great romantic comedy that my wife loves so much that we watch together called The Royals. That's upcoming. That's quite good. So
I have to say, I saw a little bit of that show as well, the one you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And it looked fantastic.
It's a blast. It is a blast.
My kids have done a little appearance in it.
And there's and then this year coming up, those are great shows from India, obviously, but we also have the finale of Squid Game coming up, the finale of Stranger Things, and the brand new season of Wednesday. All 3 are shows that are loved all over the world. So.
Fantastic.
And then for movies, Happy Gilmore 2. Are any Happy Gilmore fans here? So that's going to be a lot of fun. Guillermo del Toro has a new movie, Frankenstein, which is quite great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And new Knives Out movie. It's going to be, we have a lot of fun movies and TV shows coming up.
Fantastic. That's great. Yeah. I mean, for me, there's too many things to know. There's too much out there. I mean, and also again, I say, you know, I want to see some of our stories come out, like from our folk tales and from the history of our literature, because it's so rich, and for whatever reason, some of it is not as common knowledge as it kind of should be. It is in a form, some comic books you read growing up of the Panchatantra and, you know, Jataka tales, etc. But I'd like to see more of that, and I think we're just scratching the surface.
If I could just add, you know, what's great about Waves that's happening right now, and this investment in creative storytelling, is that when these things work, they work much bigger than just the show or the film itself. Little examples for us, but like we had the show Bridgerton. When we launched the show Bridgerton, those books have been around for many years. The book sales went up 500%. Emily in Paris, 39% of everyone, all the tourists that go to France, cite Emily in Paris as the reason they go. We had here in India, we had some music from our shows that find new audiences around the world, grow social media followings. It's just been phenomenal to see the bigger effects of movies and films on the world beyond just the show themselves.
The holistic benefit of a good piece of film, how
100%.
it affects everything is phenomenal.
It affects everything. The ripple effects are incredible. Yeah.
Well, I think we are
They're giving us the hook.
Well, it's been, you know, this has been a fantastic chat. And, you know, it's been really nice talking to you. And I congratulate this platform of giving us the opportunity. I mean, I've done some of my best work with Netflix, and it's a great chance to have this chat. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, I couldn't agree more, and I can't wait to, a lot more to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.